Greetings, AFES. Fell here remotely to help with Taming of the Shrew. So even though I'm in Boston, by the time you see this little presentation, I wanted to leave you with some words of advice. So what I'm going to do here is just review the prologue of the Taming of the Shrew, which we did on Tuesday, and we acted it out a bit. And then I will preview Act 1, Scene 1, so you have an idea of what you are getting into today as you read Act 1 with Miss Miller. And I'm also going to explain the assignment that goes along with Taming of the Shrew. So let's start with the prologue. So today in class, actually this is Tuesday, you met Sly, Christopher O. Sly, who's basically a bum or let's see, a drunk for sure, right? Because he passes out in front of the ale house. And so we meet him in the beginning of the induction. And then we meet the Lord, who is a very wealthy hunter at this point. He's been hunting with his entourage. And he happens upon Sly. He kind of kicks him in the gutter, like, who is this swine, right? He calls him a swine. And he decides to play a little trick on him just for kicks. So his trick is to try to make him think that he's wealthy, that he's a lord when he wakes up from this drunken stupor. And he even he provides him with, you know, these fine clothes and drinks and food and servants and even a wife, which we know is a big joke because it's a man who's playing a woman. But Sly decides that this is a pretty good deal. So he's either choosing to believe it or he really does believe it, but he is allowing himself into this higher class society, and we saw that in class, right? In a very amusing way, thanks to Preston and Zach as our pages, right? Or as the boy playing the woman. So that was the trick, which he took. And then we saw that the page and Sly were watching a play. So a group of players came in, and what they're going to perform is the actual Taming of the Shrew, which is kind of bizarre, right? A play within a play. So they're sitting down to watch the play, which is the same play we are going to read. So that's where we're at with the prologue. Now let me open up my other Prezi. Act 1, Scene 1. Coming momentarily to a presentation near you. Come on. Okay, here we go. So, Taming of the Shrew, Act 1. This is the same thing that Sly and the page are watching, and this is what we're being introduced to. So, here we go. We had the prologue where the players are playing a trick by performing a play for Sly and his wife, and really us. So what does Sly and the page see? Well, in Act 1, first thing that happens is we meet Lucentio and Tranio. And Lucentio is a wealthy young man, and he has come to Padua. And Tranio is his servant. So here we see Lucentio and Tranio on the street outside in Padua, brand new to this city. So this is a new experience for them. Lucentio's purpose is to study. His father sent him here to study. And Tranio is Lucentio's servant. So while Lucentio is insisting that he is here to be a serious scholar, not unlike my beloved AFES, Tranio's like, relax, Lucentio, you know, take in the experience, meet new people, let's see what happens. But Lucentio insists that he is there to be scholarly. Well, they are sitting there in the street, and guess what? They see something interesting. They see this happening, some shenanigans between the sisters. So what they see, so it's really almost another level of play. Okay, so there's Sly and the page watching Taming of the Shrew, right? And then we meet Lucentio and Tranio, who are watching this scene take place. They're kind of eavesdropping, and what they see is Katerina, the dark-haired, lovely, beautiful, I should say, I don't know about lovely sister, and then Bianca, who's the blonde-haired sister, and you can kind of probably guess stereotypically their personalities. So Katerina is the shrew. She's the one that all the men are afraid of. She's known as having a sharp wit, a sharp tongue, and being kind of a witch, and they all are kind of live in fear of her. And then Bianca, the fair sister, and Spanish scholars will tell you, what does Bianca mean? white, right? It means the color white. So she's considered pure, white and pure and innocent and beautiful, and all the men in Padua want her. So they're fighting over her in essence. They want to court her, they want to marry her. But here's the world's best dad, not really the world's best dad, but Caterina and Bianca's dad, and he wants he wants Caterina married before Bianca can even be courted. So there's a problem, and there's a central conflict that everyone wants Bianca, but Caterina must be mated first before Bianca is available. So they are all going to be plotting, not only to get Bianca, but to get Caterina fixed up with somebody to make her sister available. So that is what Tranio and Lucentio are seeing take place. So we have frames, we have levels of frames here, which Shakespeare loves to do. Yes, very Inception-like, right? So we have these questions. Why is Sly and the page watching this play, which we're also watching? Why are Lucentio and Tranio watching this, you could call it play within a play, with the sisters and the courtiers? And what other Shakespearean shenanigans await us? So that's basically Act 1 in a nutshell, and think of that as kind of the framework or the scaffolding to which you can add the details as you read it in class. I also want to talk about an assignment. Miss Miller will give you this lovely packet with Shakespeare and a shrew, a little mouse-like shrew, which is the smallest of the rodent family, FYI. But here I explain there are 14 scenes in the play, and for each scene you select a passage, a few lines, any lines in that scene which you think are interesting, and then you do a what, how, and why, which is basically just a very close reading of the passage, a careful reading of that small passage. So I'm going to give you a quick example of what, how, and why, and what you might do. This is a former AFE. I kept her what, how, and why because it was so good. So this is what she did for the induction scene 1. So far after today you will have 4 scenes that you can do. 2 induction scenes for the prologue, and then 2 scenes from Act 1. So one page for each you want to do. So she chose this quote, and this is where she wrote it at the top where it says passage. This quote from the induction, which you will remember. Here it is, quote. What think you if he were conveyed to bed wrapped in sweet cloths? Rings put upon his fingers, a most delicious banquet by his bed, and brave attendants near him. When he wakes, would not the beggar then forget himself? So that's what she quoted, and she's going to think carefully about it. So the what part, what does this passage mean? That's basically just putting it in your own words. So this is what she said. The Lord, speaking of Sly, who was at the time sleeping off the ale he just previously ingested, sees him lying there. He's overcome with disgust, and he asks their opinions. Do you think, he asks, if he were moved to a bed, dressed in wonderful clothing, rings put on his fingers, and we laid a feast about him, he would have the ability to recall his past in this drunken state? So she's saying it in her own words. That's the what. Then she does the how, and this is where you look very carefully at Shakespeare's language and think about a couple of his choices, why he wrote it that way, why he used those words. So this is what she wrote for the how. She's interpreting this in a deeper way about the language. She says, obviously he's being portrayed as a poor, worthless piece of entertainment that the Lord and his acquaintances. The biggest indication was that they referred to him as a beggar. Also, he's asking in such a condescending question that it really could only be directed toward a person who is not thought highly of. The real question, would the beggar not forget himself? Also shows how easily they believe the man can be manipulated. Overall, the character speaks of the drunk, Sly, condescendingly. So that's a closer look at how. Why does Shakespeare use those words, the beggar, and what he has him say? The why, the last part, this has to do with theme. So can you think of some bigger issues, some bigger themes, some bigger statement about humanity that we can take away from this? Because Shakespeare always has those deeper levels. This is what she wrote under the why part. I suppose it could reveal some sweeping opinions assumed by people. Drunks are all scums and crazies. Look at look down on them for the rest of their lives. That's what she's saying. Many people think, not that she thinks it. Also, many people are incredibly patronizing to um, the less fortunate or less healthy mentally or physically, and this really emphasizes how closed-minded some really are. So that's a really careful reading of that little passage. You're going to be doing one of those for every scene in this play. So that's all I have to say about that. I miss you already, dearest AFES. And now I would like you to circle up and read Taming of the Shrew Act 1. You have your parts. And remember, there's a quiz on Word Power 5 tomorrow, and if Miss Miller is feeling generous, she will read you some hints, some clues that I left you for the quiz. And that is all. I will see you Tuesday. Happy Shrew and happy Word Power.